Hello and welcome to The Reasons I'm Broke. I'm Kelly.
And I'm Daniel.
And for those of you listening to us for the first time, this is a podcast where we talk about comic books, movies, video games, the things that make us broke throughout the week.
Yep, and we always start out with some news before we jump into comics. First one is actually going to be a bit of video game news. The PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One hard drive concerns. Now that games have started to appear at retailing locations, in the very back of the cases you can see how big the installations will be. And for a lot of the games, it is up to almost 49 gigabytes of installation, and you can even see it says 45 gigabytes minimum. On a lot of these pictures you see, people are posting it up on Twitter, Instagram. You can see all the details from the back of those boxes. Now these systems, they both come with 500 gigabytes. You can upgrade them. I was looking at some of the hard drive prices for the PlayStation 4, and they're not cheap. It's not like right now with the PS3s where you can jump on Newegg or Amazon and pick up like a terabyte for $65 or whatever. Now with time, those hard drives will go down in price, but that is going to be a concern because of the installation that you first have to put in, and also for each individual game that you install. Granted, you can delete them as you go, but I mean, if you want to keep, what is it, like 10 games, if my math is right, that's like 10 games that you can have installed at a time, not including movies or music or videos or any of that.
I don't have more than 10 games installed, do I?
Not for you and not on your library.
Right, so it doesn't really bother me, but I guess if you do like a lot of games, then yeah, that will be a problem, and you're either going to shell out the money to upgrade it, or you're going to have to wait.
Yeah, when we first heard 500 gigabytes for each system, that's a pretty big hard drive compared to what we have now with these games. They don't take up 40 gigs to install.
Right.
But now that we're seeing, wait a minute, so these games are how big? So suddenly these hard drives are going to be a concern, and I don't know how they're going to go about fixing that. I bet you next year we'll see like a 1 terabyte system.
Oh, I'm sure. Can you still transfer your save data onto an external hard drive?
So I got to get the details on that. I think neither of the systems will take an external hard drive. I could be
Jerks.
wrong. You can correct me on Twitter at Reasons I'm Broke. But from what I understand, they both need an internal hard drive. And for the Xbox One, it will be something that you get through Microsoft. From what I understand, that won't be like any PC hard drive like you can in the PlayStation 4 as long as the speed and the sizes match.
Wow, because that would be a great solution, because, okay, I'm done with this game for the next few months, let me just transfer my save data, and when I want to go back to it, I just put it right back on. Jerks.
And if I were to get a launch system, something like the PS4, which is probably the one that I will go with next year when they announce the new Arkham game for it, I would plan on just putting like a 2 terabyte hard drive in there and never having to worry about it. But again, I looked at the prices and I'm like, some of these are like up to $500 for these hard drives. So it's pretty crazy.
All we need is Batman and Kingdom Hearts. Nothing else. Batman,
And
Kingdom Hearts
each
4,
one is
done.
400 gigabytes.
No! I would buy another system
I'm
for
very
Kingdom
sorry,
Hearts.
Kelly. We won't be able to play Kingdom Hearts.
No!
Batman comes before Sora.
I would buy another system for Kingdom Hearts.
Batman comes before Chernobog, comes
Yes.
before all of my favorite characters, Beauty and the Beast, Frollo from Hunchback of Notre Dame.
Yes.
Batman comes before all of those. Even Donald Duck.
Donald Duck's a badass.
Yeah,
He'd be a good Batman villain.
he would be.
He's
Pretty
just
cool.
like angry at everybody.
But
That's
then
his motivation.
But then the bigger villain behind it all would have to be Scrooge, because Scrooge is the one that's always yelling at Donald and really
Scrooge
giving
is
him orders.
amazing. I love Scrooge so much.
So I think we're going to see that these concerns really pop up as people start filling up their hard drives. Hopefully there's a cheaper solution in the coming months. Hopefully the hard drives will go down in price as people start buying them or as they start producing more. So I guess I wouldn't be too worried if I was a day one buyer, but that is something to keep an eye on.
Next, we've also been seeing PS4 and Xbox One interactives in the store.
Yeah, you can find them at Best Buys, Targets, I think Walmart's have them up, GameStops. And I got to play the PS4.
And?
The controller, like I mentioned on Twitter, I've held a controller before. It is really nice. It's smaller, it's lighter, and you have the, I don't want to, like a touchscreen type of thing, the touchpad. That's cool too. I didn't really use it. You can go through the menus with it, but it's not as interactive as, say, like an iDevice or an iPad or whatever, a tablet. But it is a nice controller. I got to play the FIFA demo, which honestly, it looks just like a PS3 game. And it's almost like there's not a huge difference between the FIFA from, let's say, last year to this year's compared to PS3 and PS4. But you're not going to start seeing those graphical differences until another year, year and a half, when developers really start using the system how it's supposed to, like really maximizing on the power of it. Now, people that you see on Twitter or whatever, they're like, oh yeah, these graphics are definitely better than... No, they're not. It's the same shit.
Did you put on your glasses when you started playing this?
Oh, I can tell already it's much cleaner.
Yeah,
no,
okay.
it's not. Xbox One Interactive, though, I'm only seeing televisions and booths. There's no controllers where you can actually play the system. I was wondering, like, who makes these decisions? Like, we're already falling behind for this year in sales. There's no way we're going to outsell the PS4 by sheer numbers alone. But not to put out an interactive out there that people can actually play. Like, You know what? Let me play this Xbox One. Like, fuck it. I might like it. I'm going to play both. No, I'm going to watch this screen with, like, videos, which I can already... I don't know who makes these choices, these decisions.
A PS4 employee who has infiltrated the Microsoft company.
It's brilliant.
They're listening to the podcast. He's like, oh shit, I've been found out.
Jumps out a window, kills himself. Damn you, reasons I'm broke.
We're murderers.
The reasons I'm dead. So I think the best comment I saw on the Xbox One not having any interactives or controllers or anything was from Al, who's been on the show before a couple times, along with Bobby. But Al said, he said, and I put it up on Twitter, it's like trying to have sex with a hologram.
Yeah.
It's true. I thought that was genius.
Too funny.
This next part, we're actually going to share some stories on this bit of news. Blockbuster, as we all know, has been going downhill for a couple of years now because of Netflix, because of Redbox. The digital age has really fallen hard on Blockbuster. So movies now, you can stream them, you can rent them through Netflix, and it's much cheaper than actually having to go into a Blockbuster.
That place was expensive.
It was. Video games, when I used to go, when I was a kid, I don't know what the prices were near the end there, but it was like $7.50 for 3 days. If it was a new release, it'd be the same price for 2 days. And sometimes even the hottest titles would be like a one-day rental. These were for games and movies. And then they tried to do the digital thing also, and the Netflix thing through their Blockbuster service. That ended up not working out too well either because devices weren't supporting it, kind of like Netflix, where you can just turn on your video game system. And even like a 3DS, you can watch Netflix on there, or your cell phone, whatever you have in your pocket can probably play Netflix. Blockbuster didn't have that support right from the get-go, and people were already on Netflix. Netflix was getting exclusives on shows, movies. Well, Blockbuster's final 300 stores will all be closed by January.
Aww. Poor Blockbuster.
Poor Blockbuster. They couldn't keep up with the times. Charging me $7.50. But yeah, other than the ones that are franchised, individually owned, those are going to stay open until whenever, I guess.
Until they go bankrupt?
I guess. But the ones that are a part of the Blockbuster brand, which I think is owned by like a Dish Network, those are going to be closed by January. From here, we can share like some of our favorite memories from going into Blockbuster.
I got some good ones.
I think I have the best one.
You probably do. Mine aren't like amazing. I did play one of my favorite video games ever from Blockbuster.
What's that?
Pokemon Snap.
Oh, I think you just took mine.
Really?
Yeah.
Yours Pokemon Snap?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Do you know why it was Pokemon Snap?
No.
Why they were pushing it? Do you remember if you can take your memory card from the N64
and then print the picture stickers, and they were like $5.
$5 a sticker.
And I remember I got the Pikachu card. Because you could pick which Pokemon you wanted on your little card. And I got the Pikachu one. And I got my stickers. And, I was like a baby back in those days. So my parents had to pay for it. Find out now my parents were like broke. So now I feel kind of guilty. But I got my thing. I'm like, this is awesome. And Dad goes, that was it? Spent all that money for that? And I'm like, but it's really cool. He's like, but you're never going to use them. And I never did.
He was right. I used to put my stickers on like my folders. I had one folder that had all the stickers lined up. And over time, though, those stickers would start to curl as the like stickiness wore off, and it became like, I don't even know how you can really preserve those things because even the color would wash away. But I do remember printing out like the Mew pictures because there was a contest in Nintendo Power where if you you printed out your little picture of your picture that got the most points in Pokemon Snap, and you sent it into Nintendo Power. And the winner, I forgot what the prize was, but I sent in like a picture of Mew. It was like a weird pose for Mew. It shouldn't have gotten as many points as it did, but it did. And that's the one that I sent in, and I actually ended up being tied in first place among 3 other people over the best Pokemon picture. So they made us write an essay on why we like Pokemon so much. And I sent it in and never heard back. I didn't win because I saw Nintendo Power like someone else did who had a picture with more points than mine, which I never found out how they determined that, because they're like, okay, so send in the picture with the most points, and you sent it in, and it's like, how do they know how many points you got? You could have sent them any picture, I guess, now that I look back on it.
There's only 3 of you who sent it in, so we'll just make them feel special.
That's awesome. So that was probably my favorite event from Blockbuster. I remember there was always the same games that were always rented out that I never got a chance to play. One of which was actually Superman 64. Now back then we didn't really have access to the internet like we do now. So I didn't know how much of a shitty game this was, but I always wanted to play it. I always wanted to play a Superman game, and it was always checked out. I don't know if it was checked out because there were other kids that were just like, yeah, I want to play that on the N64 too, or if someone hated it so much that they destroyed it and Blockbuster never got their copy. Or there's still a man right now still renting it. He's like, no one must be subjected to this.
I will save them. I will save them all. He's broke, like living in a box, but he's got this N64 game.
Superman 64. I also tried out, like, Primal Rage was where I first played, was from renting it at Blockbuster, because I saw, like, the dinosaurs on the cover or whatever on the back. I'm like, I love dinosaurs. I'll play this on the Genesis. And Sonic Spinball was another one. Like, as soon as I played it and checked it out on Blockbuster, that was on my Christmas list. I'm like, Sonic Spinball, I liked it. I thought it was a fun game. Looking back on it now, people are saying that they didn't really enjoy it. I still like it. It's on the, I think, Sega Genesis collection, and it's still a lot of fun.
I think I rented Rampage from Blockbuster. It's one of the only games, Pokemon Snap, which will always be my favorite. But definitely Rampage, because I had a little brother, and he was just getting to that age where I had a little brother. I still have a little brother. But my brother was little, and he was just getting to that age where we could do stuff together. And I'm like, you're going to love this game. And he did, and he bought it, and then he never played it again. So I still play it sometimes.
I also remember every single copy of The Legend of Zelda, Ocarina of Time, all the save files would say Zelda. Like, that'd be what they named their character. It would never say Link. It would never say the Hero of Time or whatever. Always Zelda, Zelda, Zelda. That's what they'd call you in the game. So I continued the trend. I also named him Zelda. One of my friends thought he was clever. He named his master, so all the characters called him Master everywhere he went. I'm like, shut up, Matt.
Well, okay. And I kind of almost did that once in my silver version. Remember how there's National Park? I wanted to name myself National, because then it'd be my park.
But that is it for Blockbuster.
So sad. That was like the place to go. It's like, it's Friday night. Let's go to Blockbuster. We'll rent a movie. And the movies were never really good, but...
Do you remember Hollywood Video?
Yes.
Hollywood Video, towards the end of that, like, rental phase, it was the one I liked more because they had better rental policies. They were a little bit cheaper. And then they had that game store next to it. I can't remember exactly what it was called, but it was like a sub-company of Hollywood Video. Game Zone, I don't remember. If someone remembers, Twitter at Reasons I'm Broke. But the reason I like that game store so much is they had tournaments every single weekend. And I remember I won for the Mortal Kombat Deadly Alliance tournament. And then there was also a Super Smash Brothers Melee tournament that I won in, and you got a copy of the game. And since I already had it, they did like it was like a GameStop type of thing. You can trade in your games. I remember I just traded it in, and I don't remember what I got, but I really like the Hollywood Video just for that. For the video games, you can go in and play them, and it was like, fuck Blockbuster. All those great memories and all those great games and movies I saw. Like, this is it right here, Hollywood Video. And now they're all gone. I think Hollywood Video died before Blockbuster.
Yeah, they did. I remember because there used to be one on the way to the mall. So every time I'd head out to the mall, I would always see it, and then one day it was just gone. Just the building, no, the building wasn't gone. But Hollywood Video itself, because it was a Blockbuster, and then Hollywood Video took over it. And then Hollywood
That's right,
Video
it was happening for a while, right?
Yeah.
A lot of Hollywood Videos were taking over the Blockbusters for a minute there. Just for a minute, because that didn't last.
1 minute, and they're like, oh, no, never mind.
Let's back up. Let's create this red box thing. That's not Hollywood, but... so that's it for Blockbuster. The last bit of news is the Man of Steel Q&A live event. We just finished watching it. In this one, they interviewed... It's hosted by Kevin Smith, who of course does the Smodcast thing, Fat Man on Batman. He had Henry Cavill on there, Zack Snyder, and Amy Adams, who were all in the Man of Steel film. Zack Snyder directed it, and he's also doing the Superman versus Batman movie that's coming up, or the Man of Steel sequel, whatever they end up calling it. A lot of questions on what the movie was about.
Question.
Not the questions we all wanted. And from the beginning, Kevin Smith's like, I'm gonna get some information out of him from Superman vs. Batman. But all he really said was like, they're gonna fight, and that was
Buy these pictures.
Yeah, go to We Can Be Heroes eBay page and bid on these paintings, which are for a good cause.
Mm-hmm.
But we didn't get any information. People were going wild on the internet, like maybe they're gonna show the costume or Ben Affleck in his Batman suit, or maybe we're gonna get a cameo appearance, like maybe they'll talk about Wonder Woman being in the movie.
No.
None of that.
No, because there can only be one person who loves Batman in that movie, and that will be Superman.
Tell them what we tweeted to Henry Cavill during the Ask Man of Steel event.
What was the exact words you used? It was something along the lines of, what was it like to play a character who had so much love for Batman?
And then you fixed it and said, how did you channel your inner love for Batman playing Superman? And I hashtag Superman loves Batman.
Yeah, it's true. He does.
I wonder how we would have answered it. Like,
You've probably been like, what are you talking about? Well, obviously you're not Superman, Henry, because you don't know this.
I want to see Superman try to, like, kiss Batman in the sequel.
It'll be so great.
It'll be kind of like in in Bruno, in that scene where he's trying to kiss the martial artist.
What if he runs up and uns kiss you?
Kiss you. Bam! Right in the face. Done got in the wrong...
Boom. Done moved inside the wrong range.
That's what Batman would do.
My favorite Bruno scene ever. I laughed so much.
He's like trying to attack him with the dildos.
What if it is uns black dildo? Like,
it's harder to defend against a black dildo. No, it's just the same. Break the arms, break the legs.
He was so serious, too. Like, really? Why would anybody come in and seriously ask you?
So I hope that happens in the sequel. Like,
so...
he goes in for a kiss and bam, right to the face.
Done moved inside the wrong range.
So we didn't get a lot of info out of this Q&A event. It was still pretty entertaining just to see Kevin Smith and try to be funny with Zack Snyder, who wasn't really playing along. He was just trying to be like kind of awkward about the whole thing.
Yeah. I figured it out.
Mm-hmm.
I just had an epiphany. Superman is going to become friends with Dick Grayson, so he can go over to Dick Grayson's house and be like, when you have friends and the sister has a hot brother and the friend only goes over to hang out with the girl to see the hot brother, that's what it's going to be like. Because Dick is going to be like, come on, Superman, let's go paint our nails. And he's going to be like, just a minute. I'm going to talk to your dad. It's going to be great. Let's write this.
We should.
We should.
We still got to get that one script made.
We got some of it done.
Mm-hmm.
Where did I have that notebook?
We have it typed up, though. Oh yeah, we have the other script, but the one the one like one-shot comic that we wrote.
That was so good.
We're going to come back to that and be like, we got to fix some of this.
We say that's good, and then somebody reads it, they're like, this isn't very good, guys. But if any of you are artists out there and feel like drawing a comic that we have written, let us know.
But it's got to be animated series style.
Absolutely.
Because that's the only Batman. I mean,
Is there another Batman?
No, not really. Like, you can't even draw the Greg Capullo for this script. It just wouldn't work. Like, even the script feels like an animated series episode or something.
So good.
So that's a lot of fun. But with that, we can jump into comics.
Mm-hmm.
We have a good amount of DC books this week. We have about 2 indie titles and a Marvel book. Start off with The Star Wars number 3 of 8. It's written by J.W. Rinsler and art by Mike Mayhew. This is my pass of the week.
I didn't read it, so obviously I passed on it too.
Yeah, right away, it is my least favorite book that I read this week, and I'm probably not going to read any more of the Star Wars books. I mean, it started out really promising, and the second one, it got really rocky, and this third one, it's just not there. The pacing is probably my biggest issue with it, because like it's jumping around in different parts of the story, like it's trying to introduce all these characters. Oof. Which are already reinvented to what we're not used to. So you're trying to like clear your mind of, okay, that's not really Harrison Ford, or that's not really C-3PO, that's not really Darth Vader, it's a new character. I got to look at them differently, like they're new. But it's really hard to separate yourself from that. And the pacing as you continue to read the book it doesn't fit. Like, you cut from here, it's only they're in this planet, it's only they're here, and it's just not done well. It's not handled well. Honestly, I'm glad it did change to the final film that we do see today, because this would not have made a very good movie. So that's it for the series. No more of the Star Wars from here on out. For anyone that does want to continue reading it, though, or you are enjoying it, there are still 5 more issues to be released. So it's an 8-part miniseries.
Next, on our indie side, we have God is Dead #3, written by Jonathan Hickman, with art by D. Emmeram. This one was pretty cool. I still like where we're going with this. I still think it could be a little bit better. It wasn't what I was expecting.
Mm-hmm.
But we're now... The human characters are trying to figure out what these gods actually are. Meanwhile, the gods are just tearing each other apart. Those are my favorite anythings, where the Egyptian gods are like, nah, you guys are babies. Let's just kill you. And I'm like, yeah!
It's almost like a major crossover event of what would happen if this god ever fought Horus, or whatever. That's exactly what this is. So you see each god use their mythological powers as they fight each other. The major conflict is, of course, that it's land. Like, different parts of the world, some people are invading, some gods are invading other gods. They're just like humans, really. Like, when it comes down to it, humans are caught up in the middle of it. They're just worshiping them, but they are acting like various countries that just, like, want this nation now. And there's always the one god that wants more than the others, so he doesn't agree to everything. So that's what this is. And you do see the Aztec gods go up against the Egyptian gods in this one. And then we're going to see... We did see one of the Indian gods. That's the one that the humans dissected.
Yeah.
The scientists that are trying to figure everything out.
In the last one, the Egyptians' gods went over and killed the Indian gods.
Mm-hmm.
And so then the humans found them, and now they're dissecting it in order to build their own god.
That's true, right. So the scientists are trying to make up their own. And they're figuring out that if we're able to dissect these gods and they have blood, then they're obviously not like some super... spiritual, whatever, powerful being. We can actually hurt them, obviously, because they can bleed. So this isn't... let's figure more of this out. And I'm wondering what god they're going to make. That's going to be pretty fun to see what the modern scientist makes
Batman. That's what I would make. They'd be like, Kelly, make a god Batman.
You're not real. Boom! Hits him in the face.
Yes.
You neither. Boom! I'm real. Just defeats all the gods. That's it.
So cool.
Done
He
story.
would just bat glare at them, and they all go, oh, and start worshiping him, and then...
Last issue is gods are dead, Batman's alive.
Batman lives.
Next issue, the Marvel one, Cataclysm Ultimates Last Stand, #1 of 5. We're finally jumping into that big event that will end the Ultimate Universe. Written by Brian Michael Bendis and art by Mark Bagley. Mark Bagley I love. He did the Ultimate Spider-Man for years from the very beginning. And you could see his art style really evolved in that time in all those issues. And he's doing he's finishing off the Ultimate Universe by being the artist on Cataclysm.
I kind of like this comic.
I know you really liked the .1 issue.
I did. I think it was because of the characters that were in it, though.
Mm-hmm.
There weren't really any characters that I connected with. I was like, yeah, okay, Spider-Man's here. Like him, but...
Yeah, and this one, Galactus, is, I think it's New York City that they're in, and he's decimating this place. He's not really, like, absorbing it. He's more like just stepping on buildings and making his presence known, and that's when Spider-Man suits up, and he's like, I don't really know how I can stop this. Like, I know I have this responsibility of Spider-Man to go up against Galactus, but I need the Ultimates, which are the Avengers of the Ultimate Universe. They call themselves the Ultimates. And that's when they arrive, and they're using, their most powerful weapons against them. And it's not working. Galactus is just getting pissed off. And, I mean, that's pretty much what this book is. It's the Ultimates meet Galactus from the 616 universe.
Yeah, that was pretty much it. I don't know. Maybe it'll go someplace cool.
Yeah, I was hoping they'd explore more on what they did with the last issue, where they said that these superheroes from the Ultimate Universe, they're not really heroes. Like Thor and Iron Man, they're alcoholics, really.
Yeah.
When we first saw Thor in the Ultimates, first couple of issues in the opening arc, it's a man that claims he is Thor, the god of thunder, but then they quickly found out that he stole, like, the armor from, like, a facility where they were building, like, soldier equipment, where they can throw lightning with this hammer, which was their technology also, and he was like, I'm actually Thor, god of thunder, after he just broke into that place. So it built up this thing where it's like, he's a crazy man, actually.
I like this Thor now.
Yeah, I thought that was awesome. Where he was this crazy man that just broke into this place. He thinks he's Thor and he's running around and he can use the powers. later on in the series, you find out that it's kind of like in the movie where actually he is a god and he needs that equipment to fight evil or whatever. But
he's a drunk bum.
That's what I like to pretend it's better. Yeah, just this guy thinks he's Thor, he's out of his mind, but he gets the job done.
So we let him stick around.
He hasn't really hurt any of us yet. So.
All right, I love this comic now.
So when I see Thor like run up and hit Galactus in the face, I'm like, yeah, that drunk bum is fucking killing him. Take that, Galactus, you asshole. Drunk Thor's about to kick your ass. I love it, and that's a criticism a lot of readers will give it. They're like, these aren't really heroes. They're like people with problems. It's like, yeah, that's what I like about it.
So much cooler.
Yeah.
That is amazing.
So now you know.
All right, pick of the week. Next, we're going to jump into our DC. We have Batman Black and White, number 3 of 6. A lot of artists and writers for this.
Yeah, there are a couple names that are on both sides. They're written and drawn by them.
Right. Our first story is both written and drawn by Lee Bermejo. Second story is written and drawn by Damian Scott. Third story is written by Marv Wolfman with art by Riccardo Bercielli. Our fourth story is written and drawn by Ryan Hughes. And finally, the moment Dan has been waiting for since this series began. Our fifth story is written by Paul Dini with art by Stefan Roux.
Finally, Paul Dini, and he's the final story there too. So I'm like, they saved the best for last.
This was written by Paul Dini, and Danny was so happy. Na, na, na. I should write so many songs. That'd be great. Do they need a composer for Batman versus Superman?
Oh, I'm sure they do. If not for this comic, there should be a song for Batman Black and White. I just have to wait for Bruce Timm now. Like, Paul Dini has his. I don't think Bruce Timm's gone in there yet to do his story.
I am waiting for Dustin Nguyen.
Dustin Nguyen's next month?
Yes. So excited.
So we've been liking these Batman Black and Whites. Mm-hmm. Some of the stories are weaker than the others.
Mm-hmm.
I think everyone knows what our favorite story in this was, although maybe it wasn't for you, but I'd be surprised.
I did really like the Paul Dini story. I think also the first story by Lee
Bermejo.
Yeah. Why do you give me such complicated names to pronounce on this podcast, Danny? You do. I think you write these names. You're like...
These aren't real.
You're like, let's just make this more complicated so that she sounds like an idiot. You're trying to be the favorite, aren't you? But I did really like that story, too. I thought the pacing of it was really cool. It was very cinematic to me. Like it would be a short film, which I really, really enjoyed.
Was that Nightwing or Dick Grayson in that story?
They never said. It was somebody who's starting out for the first time with Batman, kind of going through an initiation, and he keeps calling him the boss. And you don't really know who he's talking about until probably halfway through when you see that Batman's actually using him as a distraction to go and take down someone making drugs, drug dealer, whatever, in this secret house. It's kind of him being trained to be Batman or to be a sidekick. So, yeah, it could very well be. It would make most sense if it was Robin.
And if anything, Lee Bermejo draws Batman as he drew him in the Batman Noel story. Mm-hmm. And which is rumored to actually be what they used as an inspiration for Ben Affleck's costume in the upcoming Superman vs. Batman movie. It's just a rumor, but supposedly someone has seen the concept art for the cowl and actually seen the cowl. And they're saying that the closest thing that they can compare it to is that Lee Bermejo, the way he drew Batman. So if anything, check it out just so you can sort of make up ideas. Like, hey, this would be kind of cool looking Batman for the upcoming movie. Some of these stories were just like, all right. I think the one where there is a big reveal that Batman has to save someone, right? From being electrocuted from the electric chair.
Yes.
And then as you continue in the story, and it relates a lot to the Arkham Origins game, actually. I have that on my mind because we just got to this great portion of the game. But as you continue in the story, you find out that for Batman, it doesn't matter who it is that's being put up for, like, death. If they're innocent, good or evil, whatever they may be, if they're innocent, he will defend them, and he will use his detective skills to prove that they are innocent. He's the greatest detective. He's the greatest lawyer. He's the greatest... moral character in the DC universe. Anyone that disagrees, you're wrong because it's Batman. Batman always does what's right, including getting several Robins killed, but that was all their fault, not Batman's.
Oh, okay. So
I think that story Well, I forgot who wrote that particular one. I think it was the second or third story, probably the Marv Wolfman one. But I mean, it just shows that Batman is willing to do whatever it takes, regardless of who you are. You could be his worst enemy, or you can be, his own son, Damian Wayne. It doesn't matter. If justice needs to come to someone, it will.
Exactly. The one I think I like the least, I think it was written by Ryan Hughes, was the Alfred writing fan fiction.
Yeah, I remember.
That one was, and it was supposed to be after the Adam West Batman, so it was very campy and very silly, and there were parts of it where I was like, this isn't Batman, because he just said silly things and came up with silly conclusions. Mm-hmm. He's like, oh, there's this weird thing, let me contact this alien that I know.
That made an appearance in one of the very old comics.
Right. I thought it was funny because it's Alfred writing fan fiction. That was it.
As opposed to Superman writing fan fiction in the next comic we're going to talk about. But
It was.
But the Paul Dini story, it was my favorite of the entire book.
Of course, because it's Paul Dini. And you love Paul Dini.
He works in Harley Quinn, of course, Poison Ivy, Batman.
Like 3 pages in, it's like, let's make this a Harley story. Yeah, we should have seen that coming.
This is called Batman Black and White, but what's Poison Ivy doing with Harley right now? Let's go explore that. And then he immediately tells you, and there's a whole little story behind it. Batman's hardly in it. Like, he's just there at the beginning and at the end, and it is about Harley and Poison Ivy looking good, I guess.
And I think that's something Paul Dini does a lot, and I think it should be done more. They're villains, but I wouldn't say they're really villains. Not to the degree that you see some other villains. They run around and they rob banks because it's fun. Mm-hmm. Like, these are just 2 women, who like to go out and have fun. They're friends, sometimes more than friends, I guess.
Depending on which book you
read.
Right,
and they're being young, and they got these powers, so their fun needs to be a little more extreme than somebody else.
And it's always good to see Paul Dini writing for Harley Quinn again. Mm-hmm. It's always the good part.
I miss that. Yeah.
Paul Dini, get off of Hulk and the Agents of Smash. Get back with Bruce Timm.
Agents of Smash?
Yeah, that's what he's working on right now.
Isn't that really the name of it?
That's the name of the show. I hear it's not very good. I haven't seen it, but that's what he's working on. It's okay. This is just extra work he's doing until he can get back on the Arkham games and back with Bruce Timm.
What 14-year-old wrote that title?
Not Paul Dini. He did not come up with that title.
14-year-old. This sounds like, okay, when you're in a class you don't really like, so you just kind of write stuff down in your notebook. Some 14-year-old went, yeah, Hulk and the Agents of Smash.
You really like that.
It's the worst title I've ever heard. Okay, I'm sorry. Continue. Paul Dini.
So as I was saying, he needs to go find Bruce Timm, get off this show, and make season 5 of Batman the Animated Series.
Ow, my tummy hurts now. Yes, agreed.
This next book is Batman Superman number 5, written by Greg Pak, art by Brett Booth and Norm Rapmund.
Superman fanfiction. I think Greg Pak thought that Batman and Superman were actually in a relationship, because that's totally what this was. Nobody can read this and tell me that they were not in a relationship. Don't tell me friends. They were not friends in this book. They were together.
At least Greg got the right part of it, in which Superman was still the sassy one in this relationship.
He was still the woman.
He kept calling him Bruce throughout the book. Like, they're out patrolling or whatever they're doing, and he's like, now Bruce, blah, blah, blah. And Batman's like, stop calling me Bruce. Like, he has to tell him like 3 times, like, stop calling me. Like, it's just a woman. Superman, of course, being the woman's like, whatever, Batman. Like, he's really...
He's like, well, didn't you make these communication systems so they're super secure? And Batman's like, you don't really have to ask me that. He's like, well, fine, see? Bruce.
I'm like, calm down, Superman. Why is he being so bitchy right now?
Well, and then Batman gets mad at him halfway through, because he would. And Superman's like, fine, I'm just gonna leave you alone then. And
I'm done right now, and flies away. Yeah. But he's kind of keeping an eye on. Superman's kind of like, well, I hope he's okay. Made me laugh. Okay, there's 2 parts that I really love. One is like the first page, second page, something like that, where Superman's like,
I have to remember that he's older. What a weird thing to say, Superman. What a weird thing to say. And then the second thing that I loved is when he points out, and I did kind of really like this, because I always think of Superman as being able to hear everything around the world all the time. And he points out, I can really only hear about a city over, and even then it's still kind of muffled, like I have to really concentrate. But he could hear Batman's heart from forever away, and he could tell that it sped up. How far away is he? You can only hear a city over, but Batman... You just tune out everything, and then, his heart. Really?
He's in trouble. Like, you know how Jimmy Olsen has that little watch that calls for Superman? His watch is always on, and it's always for Batman, and that's just his heartbeat. Like, okay, I have to go over there and save him now. Like, even though he's mad at him, like, pretending to be upset, I guess, he's still like, oh my god, no!
No, 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 no!
Flying over there. And I guess my biggest complaint about this book was, it kind of seemed like they were kind of gay or something.
Very much so.
Which is fine, except Batman's doesn't feel about Superman in that way, whereas Superman is super gay for Batman.
Superman fan fiction.
Yeah.
I bet it's all Batman. Okay, this is being told from Superman's point of view. Batman really said different things, but this is Superman retelling the story.
And the other thing about this book, too, is it's actually not like a traditional comic book. The last time we read a book that kind of broke those boundaries was the Court of Owls issue of Batman.
That was really
We actually had to flip the book upside down and stuff to get lost with Batman in the court. But for this one, the entire book is... it's not read like a traditional comic book where the panels go from the top of the page to the bottom. Instead, you flip the entire page, almost like a splash page, so you have to turn the book over to flip the entire thing. That's how the entire book is composed. You see the panels go from the left-hand side, what would be the bottom of the comic book, to the right-hand side of the book, which would be the top of the comic book.
Let's try to explain this differently. Instead of reading it in a portrait style, you're reading it landscape.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. And so it's very weird. It was very difficult for me to read because I'm like, I don't want to hurt the comic because I'm not supposed to be doing this.
Right, and it felt unnecessary. Like, what did...
It worked, and if they had kept it how they did the first page where it was a parallel, it worked. Because in the very first page, you have half Batman, half Superman meeting in that middle, and their thoughts on each. If you had kept it like that, cool, totally understandable. A little bit more understandable.
Right.
But they didn't do that. You had, the first 2 or 3 pages where they were side by side, and then it just goes to one person's story and the other person's story.
And the other thing about this book is you do have the New 52 appearance of the Toy Maker, Toy Master, whatever they call him in this. And for this one, they actually went ahead. This is one of those New 52 changes where they try to update the book to what would be today's Toy Maker. And for this one, it's a kid who, it's not like in the Superman series, it's like an older man, right? That's running around with, like, in the animated series, there's a guy with a mask, and he's kind of creepy, and he's using these little toys that are actually bombs. For this, it's a teenager that uses video games, that controls robots from the video games as like a virtual reality thing, and he gets other players involved on the internet with these online gaming, and he puts them all together, and they all control the robots to try to fight Superman and Batman, and that's the video game, to try to kill them. I don't know, I like the toy maker where the Toy Master, he's using like a Nerf gun, and he shoots it at the guys, and then they explode or something like that. That's what I enjoy. Like, that's like, yeah, video games are toys, but I don't want to see the Toy Maker change that much,
Agreed. Next is Detective Comics number 25. This is a 0-year tie-in. It's written by John Layman with art by Jason Fabok and Jorge Lucas.
This was your pick of the week, wasn't it?
I think it might be. I really, 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 really liked this one. This is a Gordon story. This is Gordon dealing with corrupt cops. This is when he's still lieutenant.
Right, he's still lieutenant.
Kind of his first run-in with Batman, which I always love to see because those two are so good together, and everything says that they should not work at all alongside each other, but they have an understanding, and I love to see that. And it's the way it was written, I thought it was paced really well. The only thing I would have liked was for it to end when we actually see how he survived falling off the bridge.
We almost do. Like, at the end of the book, you do see that. And there's like an extra page of content, but we do see how he survives, and that's kind of like the meeting between. Well, I don't want to spoil it.
Right, but I would have liked it to end right after that panel. Just fell off the bridge. Survived.
Like, oh, now we know. Like,
now we know. Done. Like, I think that would have been very strong, but then you do get to see. It leads into another mystery, which I understand. I don't fault it for that, but I still think, boom, right there, done. Awesome.
It also explains why Gordon went with the big giant spotlight with the bat.
Yeah, I thought that was so cool.
Like, we never really knew, or we hadn't been told in quite a while, why he uses the giant spotlight for the bat signal to call in Batman, but now we see that it was based on a true event, and it's not only like a good way to get his attention, and I guess everyone else is in Gotham, like Batman's gonna be right over there, but also
I would show up. I'd be like,
look, there he is. But it's also like a symbolic thing because it ties into Barbara Gordon and it ties into Batman. Cool. It ties into the darkness of Gotham, and it's explained really well. And I can definitely see why it was your pick of the week, Detective Comics number 25. I think what else I liked about this book is they continue to play up the Man-Bat thing, the Man-Bat story. That's really interesting to me. I think what John Layman's been doing with the Man-Bat serum, with the two characters, I want to see more of it. And I like to see that Man-Bat isn't really a villain. He is trying to help out Batman, and you saw that in Forever Evil. Like, he was flying around Gotham murdering criminals and saving people that were being, preyed upon. So to get more of that Man-Bat and to get like that teaser of, look, we're not done with Man-Bat yet. We're still going to do more stuff with him. I like that. There are some reflections of year one in this Detective Comics, though.
A lot.
You do have like the corrupt cop that Gordon has to go up against, and you do still get Gordon is fresh out of Chicago, like this brand new cop, where over there things are working out fine, but then he comes into Gotham where everyone is corrupt. He's quickly finding out that Gotham it's not like your typical city. This is a city that's going to challenge you, including Gordon.
I think it's great, though. I love to see him, like, that's one of the things that makes him such a good commissioner, is he doesn't take shit from anybody. Like, okay, you're going to be corrupt, whether we're equals or I'm above you or below you, whatever. I'm going to take you down and make sure that justice happens, which is exactly what Batman does, just on a little bit of a different level. Yeah. Whereas Gordon has to go through, he actually has to, that was one of my favorite parts too, where he's talking about why they need to arrest all these guys. And it's, punches one of them. And they go, okay, we're going to arrest you now. He's like, yep, I also did breaking and entering, but here's what all they did. Here's this file. Pull it out when I broke and entered.
That was awesome.
Arrest them.
Like, I don't give a shit. You can put me away. They're going to go away for a much longer time, though.
I'm going to go away for, like, just a little bit, because I punched him in the face, but forever.
This next book is actually my pick of the week. Forever Evil number 3 of 7. It's written by Jeff Johns, art by David Finch, and Richard Friend. I
can see why this is your pick, too. This was a very good book. Poor Black Adam.
Yeah, but Black Adam is fine, though. He's not dead. But yeah, poor Black Adam. After that last one that we got, I think it was Justice League of America, where we saw Black Adam. Like, that was the big reveal that we saw against Ultraman. So cool. Like, Black Adam pops up, like, no one's gonna enslave my world. Like, what I liked about the Forever Evil is they're finally really digging into that concept that I fell in love with, of the villains being the heroes. When the heroes aren't around, you can actually count on the villains to be like, we're not gonna let this other threat, not necessarily a bigger threat, but this other threat of villains that are probably a little more evil than they are because they come from a world where it's survival of the fittest and they kill the weak regardless of who you are, good or bad. But these villains are saying, well, we're not going to let them take over our world. It's kind of like in the final episodes of Justice League Unlimited where the villains are saying, hey, it's our world too. We're not just going to stand by and have it be destroyed or whatever. You get something similar with this with Forever Evil, except you're seeing all the little villains and all the little team-ups and how they're developing as they make up their plans to try to take out Ultraman and try to work with, eventually, I guess, Batman, who's still running around, just not captured in this universe or in this story.
I did really like also, Luthor's starting to figure it out. I mean, he's a brilliant guy, so he's sitting there, why does Ultraman have it in a constant eclipse? Why is he looking for kryptonite? That kind of thing. So I think Luthor is going to be really big in this, trying to stop him. Because, it's just another Superman for him to stop.
But the opposite, right? Like an anti-Superman type of thing. And the next issue, and it's on the very last page, it says Lex Luthor versus Batman.
Yeah! Dun, 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 dun.
And the cover shows Luthor and Batman fighting as like the Earth 3 Justice League are watching over them. So I guess there's going to be that initial conflict between Batman and Luthor before they fight together, kind of like in Injustice, the video game, where Luthor and Batman are working together to try to stop this Superman. So you're getting something similar in Forever Evil, but I think it's taking it to like a higher level.
So cool. Next, we have The Movement #6, written by Gail Simone, with art by Freddie Williams II.
The Movement continues to sell really well, actually. It's surviving this like initial wave of like, okay, let's see if it goes past the 6th issue or whatever. And I think it is more about the story with Gail has this great talent of being able to put these characters together and really form bonds with not only with the reader but also with whatever issue they're tackling, because here you do see two of our heroes fight, but then in kind of a sweet moment, and I say that like almost literally too, because they go over ice cream, and they go and have ice cream and they settle their differences, but they also come to like realizations as they do this, and you can only do that when you have good writing like Gail Simone's.
Right. I still don't think I'm enjoying this series as much as you are. I can't even tell you why, because I love Gail Simone. I love her work in Red Sonja and Batgirl especially, but I don't know that I'm not connecting with the story as much as I would like to.
It's continuing that story with the cops that they had captured. They want to expose what the police station is actually going through and how they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing. But at the same time, this team is figuring out how to work together. And Gail does a good job of reminding us what each character's name is, what their powers exactly are. And you see examples of all of that in each of those issues. And it continues here in The Movement #6. But yeah, I mean, sounds like I am liking it more than you. But, you know, I'm still, obviously, I'm going to continue reading it.
No, yeah, I will as well. I mean, it's not terrible where I'm like, oh, I'm not going to read this anymore. I don't feel that there's a character that I've really connected with. I think my favorite is probably the Burden, but we don't really see a whole lot of them, which is kind of sad for me. But no, there's just nobody I really connect with.
Well, it sounds like there's a setup for the Burden in this issue especially. Like, oh, is he really okay? No, I don't think he's exercised.
No.
Like, yeah. The final single issue we're going to talk about this week is Superman Unchained #4, written by Scott Snyder, art by Jim Lee and Scott Williams. We find out more about who Wraith is, and we get kind of a bit of a tease on how Luthor is connected to Wraith or any of these other characters. What he's actually doing to Jimmy Olsen, we don't know. But I think what I liked more about this, and it continues to be strong, the Superman Unchained book. It's probably the best Superman book they've had since the New 52 started. Definitely better than Action Comics, better than the Superman series. Superman Unchained is really strong. Here you see Wraith and Superman working together and just seeing how wonderful they are at really figuring out, okay, well, we got to get past these guys that can actually hurt us regardless of how strong we are, and actually having to think their way out of problems.
Agreed. It's still saying very strong book. I think we got a really cool twist at the end, which I'm excited to see where that goes. Because it's like, oh shit, these bad guys are really a fault of this guy, and then what's going to happen with them now trying to be together? And then I can't wait to see where it goes with Jimmy. Because he pulls off the little paper thing, and it's like a skeleton. Yeah. So is he Metallo now?
It looked exactly like Metallo, didn't it?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Which would be even weirder to see, like, okay, are they ever going to get Jimmy back? And then if they get Jimmy back, is he still going to have lingering moments where he is still like that villain that he was forced to become? And then will he then turn back into the... So much you could do with that. Wow, I'm just writing this whole book for them. Tell me to stop.
And they still haven't even touched on Wraith, really. Like, yeah. Even Wraith is like, I'll tell you later in the next issue exactly who I am, you know, that whole thing. So
he's just... like rolling up his skirt just a little bit, so you see that little bit of leg, but he won't really show you anything more than that.
And of course, Superman's not really paying attention. He's like, well, "Where's Batman now?" And the final book that I actually want to talk about, I did check out the Neil Adams illustrated hardcover volume 3.
No,
you didn't like this book.
No.
I loved it.
Nope.
I don't think we talked about it on the podcast, but I finally got a hold of the first appearance of Ra's al Ghul, which was in the Batman book. It's titled Batman and Robin, but it was actually in Batman, has Ra's al Ghul on the cover with Batman and Robin. Robin's being shot, and it's drawn by Neil Adams, and that's where you first have like that animated series 2-parter episode. That's what this whole thing is based on. Denny O'Neil and Neil Adams. Denny O'Neil wrote the story from the animated series and this book, but he kind of updated it in the cartoon. Well, in this hardcover book, Neil Adams illustrated You get all of those issues, the Ra's al Ghul issues, also the first Man-Bat appearances in this book all put together. So it's like you get the best of Neil Adams and Denny O'Neil like right at their prime as they introduce one of the best Batman villains. Like one of the best Batman villains ever came from the 70s, not from the 40s with the Joker or whatever. Like this is Ra's al Ghul and Batman doing the classic, hey, you're going to take over what I'm doing, and Talia is going to be your wife, and you're going to make superior kids because I'm Ra's al Ghul and you're Batman, and we're equals, and we'll make the best kingdom to save the world that we possibly could. And you get all of this in this Batman Illustrated book. You did flip through it.
No.
The coloring on it has been updated. It's all digital. It's no longer a regular hand-drawn comic book or anything like that. So it all got updated. That's probably my least favorite part of this book, is that they updated all the colors. I wish they had just reprinted it as is and left it alone, because some of the backgrounds, even you were looking at it, you're like, this is like all like blue, like really blue. It's not even like in the older issues where it's the comic page as the background, and they just added like hints of red or whatever for the sand and all that. And you don't really get that in this. It's all redone.
Mm-hmm. They could have redone it without Talia and her ugly Talia face.
Would you want Catwoman there instead?
Yes.
The daughter of the demon, Catwoman.
Yes. Approved. Best book ever.
Really good hardcover at $49.99. It's a little steep. I wouldn't recommend the full buy simply because if it had been in its original colors and everything, cool. Definitely worth it. But at the digital recolors, I mean, you still have the story there, which is great. But for $49.99, it is a bit much. Maybe at $30. I would have been happy with that. Like a softcover release, $30, done.
Still, no Talia. Rewrite this book. Come on, guys. Release another hardcover.
But I think that will do it for this week. My pick of the week was the Forever Evil #3.
My pick of the week was Batman Year Zero tie-in.
Detective Comics #25.
That one.
You can find us on Twitter at Reasons I'm Broke. Let us know what made you broke this week. #Reasons I'm Broke.
And if you're listening to us on iTunes, please leave a comment and a rating. It helps other people find us. And if you don't have iTunes, you can stream us straight through your Android phone on IPP Podcast.
Don't forget to check us out on YouTube. If you're watching this on YouTube or listening on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe. We are going to put out some more unboxing videos in the future. The closest one is going to be the Greg Capullo black and white statues for Batman and Joker.
Can't wait. When's my Harley Quinn coming out?
December.
Yeah.
So right after that, Harley Quinn.
Happy holidays to me.
But thanks for listening. I'm Daniel.
And I'm Kelly.
See you next week.